How's it going, everyone? My name is Nick Clement, Head of Marketing with Access 4, and welcome to something I'm very excited about, our first ever live recording of MSPland. So today we have a really great session for everyone on a topic that we talk about with our partners quite a bit, around how to build a winning sales team and a winning sales culture. So as everyone is aware, unlocking great sales results hinges on having an exceptional sales team. So today we'll be talking about how you can cultivate a winning sales team and culture to drive your company's success. So without further delay, we'll get straight into it. I want to introduce our hosts to today who will be going through the content. So Pete Eldon, our Sales and Marketing Director, and Matthew Jameson, our Head of Channel. Over to you guys.
Thank you, Nick. Nick is in with him. He's in full darkness. He fully disappeared now as well. But welcome everyone to, as Nick said, our very first live MSPland. So the idea of these sessions is some thoughts and maybe even some reminders of sales strategies, advice, thoughts, bad ideas we've done previously that will tell you never to try again, from a couple of seasoned, grizzled sales veterans. Now, you might...
I resemble that comment.
Although, I looked at your picture, you look like catfishing us with that picture. That's ridiculous. So you might not know this, but both Matt and I were born in the same year, and we're only 24. This is what sales does to you. So stay in school, kids, get a degree. But if you haven't, and you're in sales now, congratulations. We can try and help you along this journey. So from a serious aspect, there is a significant amount of sales experience and knowledge. And again, I mean that seriously when I say what not to do, right? Sales is it's a process, and it is you learn along the way, and there is as much things you try that don't work and things you try again that you forgot, that you get reminded when you do these type of events, and hopefully we can give you a bit of that experience. So my name's Peter Eldon. I'm Director of Sales and Marketing at Access 4. I'm seeing some very familiar names pop up on the attendee list. For anyone who doesn't know me, I've been in sales my entire life. I've had my own businesses within the MSP channel and within the voice channel. And I've been in sales in the front line, as well as sales leadership in various businesses all around SaaS and the channel, and a lot of it within IT. Over to Matt to give you his introduction as well.
Thanks, Pete. So Mat Jameson, Head of Channel here at Access 4. Like Pete, I am a seasoned veteran in the sales game. I never thought I was in sales until I realised I was in sales. I started in hospo, which was all about selling, and then I cut my teeth in residential real estate before I found myself in the telecommunications phone system world. And for the last 20 years, I've spent my time in sales roles and sales leadership roles along that journey.
Actually, that's a good point you make there, Matt. So here's a little tip right off the intro page. When you're looking at hiring new salespeople, particularly for entry-level positions, you're looking for EQ, you're looking for energy, you're looking for resilience, you're looking for teachability. Matt, where do we look? Where is a good place in when you look at that resume, which is pretty bare from the point of view of what they've done? What do we look for first off in those new to the industry people?
So any sort of background in that hospitality industry is the way to go. The resilience, the drive, the work ethic, the pressure, all comes about, getting that result. And whether it's behind a bar, behind the kitchen bench, out in the front line, serving plates and picking up you're dealing with every colourful character under the sun, and it is a fantastic.
Generally us drunk at the other end. If you've dealt with me in a bar, you can sell anything. It's as simple as that. But if you take nothing away from this webinar, have that. That is an absolute gem. Hospitality workers, and I think a lot of you guys be on the call right now will think back to some sort of retail hospo work you've done in there. really good foundation work to bring into those entry-level positions. And again, the second tip I'll give you, and we haven't even got off the introduction page, hire young early and bring them through your organization rather than getting distracted by shiny things like myself and Matt, who tell you we know the industry and we've got this great contact list and we're going to make all your sales problems go away. I mean, if Matt or I do it, listen to us, we're the exceptions, we're the unicorns. But everyone else, I would recommend hire young for entry-level positions. You can teach them your culture. You can get they don't have the bad habits, and you can bring them through to be the people you want within your organization. Would you agree with that, Matt?
100%. And I think it goes to the point that I made in my intro, is that I didn't realize I was in sales in hospitality. But ultimately, that's what it was. It's sales. It's building rapport, building an environment. And I didn't know until I'd moved out of hospitality that was actually hospitality was sales.
Yeah, absolutely. So look at that. In the vein of under promise and over deliver, we've given 2 hot tips, and we haven't even got off the introduction page. So, you know what I mean? I think we're winning here. So what are we going to do today? We're going to have a chat in this first session. I'm going to get my mouse to work. We're going to talk about sales cultures. So this is it's aimed at sales leaders, business owners, anyone who's trying to run a sales team. But I'd also argue that there's going to be some really good points for salespeople on the call as well, understanding both sides of this and why sales leaders are asking you these things, or why they should be asking you these things, all amount to how salespeople are successful. So it doesn't really matter what side of the fence you're on. This will be valuable, but very much in this first instance for the sales leaders out there, people who don't see themselves as sales leaders, who are running MSPs and CSPs. You guys are. You're absolutely the front leader sellers, and most of those business owners I know, they don't see themselves as sellers, and they're some of the best sellers I've seen. But Matt, and none of us is prepared. Do good sellers make good sales leaders naturally?
Not naturally, not always. It is a transition that can be quite difficult to go from being a seller to a sales leader, and it's the promotion to the level of incompetence is the area you need to be very careful of.
I think I've got a little bit higher than that, but sure, I'll accept that. I was always an overachiever. Incompetence, but it's a good point, right? If you look at it from a sport analogy, you'll see some of the most naturally gifted players don't necessarily make great coaches, because it's like, just do what I did, right? Whereas the people who have had to grind and understood the skill of selling can make better sales leaders, because they've had to understand that process. And we'll get into a little bit more. So if you haven't got a cup of tea, too late, we're going to kick on with this. Nick, I'm assuming we're going to record this and send this out to everyone. So, in the future, pause me, grab a cup of tea and help yourself. I've got my lucky cup, which is my Mr. Sparkles. So I'm happy.
Yep, that's it. Everything will be recorded. We'll be sending it out to everyone afterwards. And also just to note as well, if you have any questions that come up while you're listening to some of this content, please throw it into the Q&A function, which you can see at the bottom of your Zoom screen. At the end of all of the presentation, we will be going through answering questions. We're even going to be taking people, off of mute, put some videos on, and really have some interactive chats if anyone is up for that. So please have a think about that while you're listening to the content today.
Yeah, and further on that, we're known for our punny t-shirts. We have 2 brand new punny t-shirts, which quite frankly, I think are our best. They will be released in our road shows. I hope everyone on the call has registered for your road shows. So we hit Adelaide and Perth next week, then the East Coast the weeks after that. If you're not on there, why not get registered? Come and see us. But for the best couple of questions picked by myself and Matt, you will get both of the brand new punny t-shirts pre-released, sent to you, so you can show off and be an envy to everyone else there. So please get your questions in. We do want this to be interactive. So what are we going to talk about today? Sales leadership it's a lot about gut. It's a lot about trusting your instincts, but that gut needs to be confirmed with data. And so what we're going to do in this first bit of info is we're going to talk about, what we think makes good leaders. And then we're going to use the data, what makes good salespeople. And then we're going to use the data of actually going out and asking salespeople in the channel SaaS business about, what they need to succeed. And we're going to compare that information. So, it's about instinct and about gut. So what we did is we surveyed a number of MSPs, business owners, sales leaders, and we asked them a number of questions around sales leadership and about sellers. And then we took that information of those questions. We went to salespeople within the channel and we asked the same questions. And the results are quite interesting. That's why I want to go through this. So without further ado, the first question we asked is, what motivates sales reps the most? And so when we went to, the questions we asked was it recognition? Is it money, achievement, career progression, or some other item? So first off, we went and asked a bunch of business owners, leaders in the sales area. We asked them that question. And what they said was the number one thing that motivates salespeople is money. Number two was recognition. Number three was achievement. Career progression came in next, and then another status was everything else in the bag. Now, again, as sales leaders, when you look at that, you're thinking, I would have answered those questions kind of similarly. Money up the top. We're kind of needy in sales. We want to have that recognition and then achievement in third. So then again, we went to the horse's mouth. We went to the sellers. We asked the same questions. The number one thing they said was achievement. Number two was money. Then career progression. Recognition is 4, and then 5 was other, but it was very clear what that other was. A lot of them said team culture. So this was interesting for me because when we look at 1 and 2, look, they're pretty aligned, right? If you're in sales and you're not motivated by money, I'd say you're probably in the wrong gig, right? It's kind of where we're all sitting. Recognition and achievement, I think they could be seen as the same thing, just said differently in the salespeople. But career progression is an interesting one because that is an area that can be quite difficult when you're building sales teams, particularly when you're building small sales teams in an MSP or a small organization. How do you deliver the achievement component and the recognition and then that career development? Matt, when you saw these come through, were you surprised by any of these? Putting on your sales hat and then putting on your sales leadership hat? What are your thoughts on this?
It was really, I was really quite torn by this because it was trying to understand when I made that transition from being a seller to being a sales leader, and then trying to remember making sure you go backwards. I totally agree that money, recognition, achievement, money in that top category is absolutely it, right? It is a major motivator and driver, and if you haven't got someone who's got aspirational money goals or huge debt to cover, then
what do we call it? What do we call that debt?
Motivational debt.
Motivate's the third thing you can take out of this, right? Okay. Motivational debt is fantastic, right? And what I mean by that, it's mortgages, it's cars, it's nice watches. Salespeople, we like that type of stuff. It sounds a little bit harsh, but it's not, right? Like salespeople, good salespeople have the ability to go out and make more money when they need it. And so having those rewards of nice things are important, but having to have to pay for those things is really important. So motivational debt, very, very good.
Yes. And then I think, as you say, moving on to on the sales rep side of things, career progression and recognition inside a blossoming, high achieving culture, I think it does actually ring true to my days in a sales team aspirationally where I want to go. And I think it's good recognition to understand those slight differences between a leader's thought process and a sales rep's.
And so let's talk about a couple of these. First, what I'd say is number 1 and number 2. If you're running sales teams and you're not paying them commission on the things that you want them to sell, then I'm going to say you got rocks in your head. Right?
Absolutely loudly.
Yeah, I mean, if you've got salespeople in your organization that aren't paying commission or comfortable with that, I'd argue have a salespeople. I'm going to be honest. And so if you're trying to get salespeople who are true salespeople to stay, feel recognized, feel they've got achievement and make money, then you need to tie that to commission. And it needs to be a clear path. And we'll talk about how we incent salespeople a little bit later. But, I do run across organizations today that don't pay salespeople commission on the items they sell. And I struggle with that. I really do. And I'm happy if anyone wants to throw a question in there and tell me why I'm wrong on that. But for me, they go hand in hand, recognition and money, how we tie those in.
One of the
areas, sorry, Matt.
Sorry, I was going to say one of the areas that, on a posing a question perspective, has been put to me is that it's the ethics. We don't want them to be money, that they'll take the money rather than the sale, and we want the sale as a genuine, and that's the motivator to not pay sales commissions. Have you experienced that in your world?
Are you telling me, did I sell something I shouldn't have for the money? Is that what you're asking? No, look, I have heard that argument, and I would argue that's more to do with poor sales management or not knowing how to manage, rather than the positive side of someone wanting to sell. If you're selling something you don't believe in or that someone doesn't want, you're not a salesperson, you're a con man.
Yep, agreed.
Or a con person. So I would say that you want to weed that out. There is nothing wrong with someone in sales being rewarded for bringing in revenue to your organization that was a right fit for your customer. And I'd say that every business owner out there, you're on commission, right? So if it's good enough for you, good enough for your salespeople as well. Now, an area that I would mention around career progression, which is a tough one, right? How do we do that? Small teams, you don't have multi-tiered sales structures. You've got a sales manager. Where do these people go? I go back to that comment I made around hire young, build them up from a junior, bring them in with little experience. They might start on the phones doing call setting for you as a senior person if you're a business owner. And then they come in as a junior account manager, and then they come into a senior account manager or BDM. So again, if you hire that younger team, there's less risk when you hire a younger team. You're not dropping out massive salaries for someone who's promising the world. You can bring in more of them to do different functions. You then have a pathway to grow them in the business, and that's less risk for you as well, because someone who you've brought in who's proven themselves as a junior is less risk to put on a better salary with better customers with more responsibility. So there is ability to give that career progression even within a smaller sales team. So when we asked both business owners, leaders, and the sales reps, this next question was, why will a rep be successful? Partners think it will be because, number one, they've got a great product to sell. Number two, because we're going to give them comms, and that's how they're going to be successful. We've got to give them a sales process, right? Hard work, and then their self-drive to be number one. Now we went to ask the sales reps this. They've told us, number one, hard work. Now that tells me we are salespeople, because anyone who is a salesperson knows it's hard work to do that grind to get that. Number two was wanting to be number one. That's very confusing, but you know what I'm saying. So that self-drive. So the number two key aspects salespeople believe they need, they've got to have self-drive and they've got to do hard work. And, if we stop the webinar now, that's it. That is absolutely it. When we get into sales leadership, when we get other people who look into the sales team, they see a bunch of peacocks. Are they really doing any work? What do they do? They're going out for lunches all the time. The struggle's real. The grind's real. The work that salespeople have to do on those callbacks, on those processes, on that reporting, that's what gets the wins. It's not that ringing a bell when they've got the sale. And that's what a lot of people see. And the further you go up the chain, kind of the less you see that. I see that sometimes as well. When you get on a sale and you do that, you understand that. So that's really important, is to understand that if you've not got salespeople who are grinding and doing that hard work, then likely they're not going to be successful, and they probably don't want to be number one. And the next one is having a good. What have I got there? Number three is making commission, right? So they need to be able to see that when they do the hard work, they're going to make the comms. Then number 4 is having a good product to sell. Could be seen as controversial. Does that tie into what you're saying, Matt? Is, sellers are just going to sell anything? I think that personally is what they're saying is, if you're in a good organization with right people, the products are there, right? But products and IT, right? It's products. There's going to be problems with them from time to time. But if you're in a right organization who looks after their customers, we can get past those problems. I think the number one, Matt, when sellers are telling you they're not selling, right? When they're not doing number 1, what excuse do you hear about why they're not able to sell?
The product was no good, or the price was too expensive.
Yeah, right. And what we see is there's always someone who's cheaper than you, and it's about matching, doing that hard work of making sure that the product fits into what the customer needs. I'm not saying that not having a good product is not important. Having good products isn't important, but it is something that is not necessarily that top of a list there for good salespeople. And then number 5. Now, this does not surprise me. This does not surprise me that salespeople said sales process is number 5. Now, this is the one that I absolutely agree that the sales leaders are right on and us sellers are wrong on, right? We are that group of people that, you've got to make us follow a process. We're not going to follow a process if you don't make us. And that's where you get that little juxtaposition between what sales leaders need to know, and also what makes good salespeople, right? Is we've got to make them do things sometimes they don't necessarily want to do for their own good. Any thoughts on that one, mate?
Look, I couldn't agree more. It's that discipline, and there's a creativity and the art and the flamboyance and the wanting to be number 1 and the recognition associated with being number 1 and being the top seller and ringing the bell, which is all the flashy stuff of being a salesperson. But you can never forget that you're only as good as your last sale, and if you don't continue to do the work and the grinding and the discipline, which is that sales process, day in and day out, then the last sale will be your last result.
Yeah, that's truth. And what I would say for MSPs out there as well is that's probably one of the hardest things when you've been entrepreneurially selling, and you as a business owner, and you do all the deals and you've got the prices in your head and you don't have a price book and the likes. That's the hardest transition, and that's where I see the most challenges when MSPs and CSPs go to that next level of putting on a salesperson. Is that business owner can be the bottleneck. And the bottleneck, because it's like, well, I've got an opportunity. I know how that works, and I need to quote that. No, we don't have a price book on that. And so it all starts going to that sales principle. And then what happens is the salesperson can actually start using that as an excuse and against you later down the track when you're talking about sales results. And I think we've all been in that situation where you've had a seller in the organization and they've been there 3 months and they haven't sold anything, but they're telling you it's coming. It's coming. We didn't have sales processes, and all those quotes are with you, boss. But I've got this great view, and the next month it's going to get better. I'd argue probably isn't going to until you look at what those processes are, because what those processes do, it frees you up as a principal. So if you're going to, it's the old saying, why have a dog and bark yourself, right? If you're going to put on a salesperson, you shouldn't then have to still be using that in that. So, what I'd recommend if you are going to that next level of putting on a sales team or a salesperson, map out your sales process. Make sure you give them that runway to be successful. Have a price book, have your commissions set up, have a description of what your products are. Make sure they understand what it is you want them to sell as your priority, and then give them the runway to do that. That will set them up for success. But it will also make sure that that if they're not successful, you give them everything you could, which means you need to cut the cord on that person. Is it them or is it you? So really implore that. And again, if anyone wants to do any deeper sessions around this, I'm more than happy to dig deeper, either myself or Matt, around that. Why do sales reps leave? So business owners, principals, we ask these questions. Is it team culture? Is it management and leadership? Is it money? Lack of progression? They don't feel valued. Why sales reps leave? We ask this question. Number 1, money. They got a better offer. Team culture. Team culture is an interesting one. I'll talk about that in a minute around smaller teams. Management and leadership, number 3. Don't feel valued as number 4. When we ask the sales rep, here's the gut check time, right? Here's the guys who we're talking to. Oh, sorry, lack of progression. I missed one there. When we ask the sales reps, number 1, management and leadership. Number 2, team culture. Number 3, lack of progression. Number 4 was money. Number 1 for the leaders. Number 4 for the people who are actually leaving. This was really interesting for me, right? So this is the thing that we got to be careful on as sales leaders. Are we trying just to reassure ourselves? Oh, they got a better offer. It was crazy offer. Couldn't match it. It's all about the money. It's kind of like when we lose a sale, right? We lost the sale. Yeah, someone undercut us. It was they bought the business. And are we convincing ourselves, or is that the real reason, right? We've got to look at ourselves. So what I took out of this is, if you look at those first 3, if you want to look at the positives, so why do your salespeople leave? Management, leadership, team culture, and lack of progression are completely in our control as sales leaders. So if you've got good salespeople, and I preface that with good salespeople, it's never a bad time for a bad salesperson to leave. But if you've got good people you want to hold on to, it's within our power. Are we leading them properly? And that leading them properly sometimes getting them to do things they don't necessarily want to do, like sales processes, if we know that they'll be more successful. The team culture. Team culture is number 2. I've seen that so often, right? Like if I look at the reasons I've left organizations when I was selling, money wasn't it. It was around those, the leaders I was working for or the managers, and it was that team culture. Matt, what do you see that around team culture, right? It's a really interesting one. The challenges around small sales teams, what do you see the challenges are? Let's say you're in an MSP or you're in a smaller organization. What are the challenges in building a sales culture within that?
So I think the challenge in that small and team environment is the ability to benchmark off fellow team members, thrive off one another, to one-upmanship, and the damn it, he rang the bell, how do I get to ring the bell? And I think you've got to promote that in a small environment, and even if it is just the business owner and their new salesperson, you've got to create a way in which that accolades and applause can be built into the business, so that they've got that feeling of success.
Bang on. That's the biggest struggle with a small business is exactly that, right? You've got an entire team of engineers, and you've got accounts people, and you got the whole thing, and then you've got these 2 salespeople, right? And so they walk into an office, and it's all energy. The salespeople are energy, and they want to come out and they want to high five someone and get a deal. We're all unique individuals. I mean, there's a bunch of engineers just working on computers like this, and it's a very quiet, normal office environment. That's not necessarily a sales environment, right? Sales environments can be chaos, and there's a ball flying by the head, and there's music playing. And that's that energy and that driving off. And for everyone who doesn't know what we mean by we ring the bell, we mean literally ring a bell. Most sales organizations, be it virtual or physical, have a bell. When the reps do something, you ring it and you celebrate that. And look, I would also argue, being the person I am, is, when the techs close off a deal, ring the bell. That is a rewarding culture, right? When you do something that you've delivered something for your customer that had benefit to the business, celebrate that. We look at the losses, we talk about the losses. Why doesn't that ticket closed? What happened with that billing? How come this person owes us this money? Why do we, what about the wins? We got that money in. We close that ticket in record time. Our customer's happy. We got a good reference. Ring the bell. So the bell's not just a sales thing. It's very much is a sales thing, though, but it's not just. I had my own business back in the day, and it was just when Amazon opened up, and my business partner, we got this bell from Amazon, and we weren't really sure of the size of it. Well, this bell might have been from Big Ben, right? So we had to get a builder in to put it on the wall. And when you rang this, it was like a clock had went off. Like, it was ridiculous. So then you only got to the point where you only rang it for big deals, right? Because you didn't want to deafen everyone. But be it a physical bell or a virtual bell, you know, when our guys get a good deal, we help a customer out, we'll get them to put a deal into the chat. Celebrate those wins. It's important. Back to that point we're talking about, those small cultures. Think about that when you bring in salespeople. What is my culture? What is my environment like? Is this fostering salespeople? As a business owner, do you like salespeople? Do you trust them? Because if you don't, and you're hiring them begrudgingly, is that going to work? And the first thing is, you know, and from Dr. Phil, if you don't love yourself, you're not going to love anybody else, right? You're going to embrace that you're a salesperson, a really good salesperson. Look at the business that you have built around you. Look at the revenue that you've built in your business. You've done that by selling. Embrace it. Understand the positives of selling. Understand the positives of solving problems for your customers, and how that fixes up issues that they've got and helps them succeed. And then embrace that and bring salespeople in. And I'd argue, if you're not comfortable with that, it's going to be hard to build a good sales culture. Yes, I did a Dr. Phil impression, for anyone who was wondering. Nick's hitting the abort button, like, to pull the plug. We're stopping this now. All right. So this is a question I ask everyone, and I want you just to think about this question yourself as I'm asking this. So, sales management, is it an art or is it a science? I just want you to think mentally on that. Do your little mental vote. Is it an art, sales management, or is it a science? So, Matt, I'm going to ask you, art or science?
I have to say that as I've progressed along my career, I once thought it was an art, then I thought it was a science. And the reality as to where I sit today is that I truly understand that it's both.
Absolutely right. Now, he might have seen this deck before, but
maybe
he's bang on. And Matt knew that before we talked about this. It is very much an art and a science, right? It is different sides of the brain, and you can't be successful without one or the other. And they absolutely go hand in hand. And let's talk a little bit about what we mean there. So the science is the sales management component about it. It's the understanding of the facts. It's the metrics that you set for success within your business. And, you know, we talk a lot in our organization, and good sales organizations, talking about lead and lag indicators. And what we mean there is that when you're looking at metrics, what's a lag indicator? So in sales, Matt, what would be a lag indicator for sales for us?
The lagging indicator for us is when we turn our revenue on, because it's lagging, it's on.
So it's MRR, right?
MRR, correct.
Revenue, so sales. So sale to any of you guys is a lag indicator. It happens after they've been successful. What's a lead indicator for us?
So leading indicator is pipeline.
And what else would we have? So pipeline.
As I say, activity cadence, pipeline, quoting, quotes out, deals out, all of those activities associated to leading up to that close of the deal. And depending on the nature of your business and how you go to market, you could pick 1, 2, 3, or 4 of those as your key metrics for being a leading indicator to tell you how the ship's going and are we steering in the right direction.
Yeah, bang on. And why have a lead indicator? Because what we're effectively saying is the lag indicator happens post the event. If everyone does their job properly, you get a sale, right? And you want to track that, right? Because that's how you grow your business. So we're going to get X amount of MRR in a quarter. Lag indicator, we did that. The lead indicator that tells you if you're on the right track to get to your lag is that activity, the pipeline. So, you know, we've got a target we're going to hit for the quarter. In the first month of the quarter, are we seeing the pipeline growth? That shows that we're going to hit there. Well, we're not necessarily seeing the pipeline growth. Whatever lead indicators are we using? We're using activity. Are the guys helping our customers out? Are they front of mind? Are we talking to them? Oh, look, yes, we see the lead activity. That should lead into pipeline. Oh, look, we've seen the pipeline activity grow, which then leads into the lag activity, which is the thing that we need. Really good areas to look in your business. And I know a lot of you guys will be sitting here and they go, I didn't think of it as that name, but that's absolutely what I'm doing in my business. I'm checking what we're doing. We're talking about pipeline in weekly meetings, and that then leads to that good result. But these are just putting some names around it. So leading and lag indicators, really important in the sales process. Having a business plan. What it is that your sales organization wants to achieve this year, this quarter, this month. And more importantly, having those business plans for your partners and your customers. Now, these are customer-facing business plans. There might be internal business plans about how you're going to grow the business in particular segments. And then sales processes, right? The number 5 on the salespeople's list, number 2 or 3 on the leaders. Absolutely critical. We've spoken a little bit about this, but making sure that when you're throwing leads into your sales funnel, that funnel moves as efficiently as possible to give you that MRR result at the bottom. And equally as important is that salespeople, because we're good sellers, don't sell to you that the problem isn't them, it's sales processes or bottlenecks in the sales of the products and like. So sales processes allow us to do that. And then obviously having those products and services and making sure those products and services are aligned with what your customers need. And then we've spoken a little bit about this sales activity. Now, the art's the leadership component. So, that is the science, that's the metrics, the numbers, the management. Now we're talking about the leadership component. So to understand how do you motivate your salespeople? Understand the people within your team. Where are they? Where are they from a life cycle? Where are they from a motivation? What do they want to do? Where do they want to go? And how do you lead those into that? And that's, again, when I talk to business owners who don't see themselves as salespeople, you understand what motivates you. That's probably going to be quite similar to salespeople who are coming through as well and aligning that to them. Your people and culture. We've spoke about this a little bit in here, but making sure that you are building a sales culture within your organization. What words do you use? When a rep rings you from another vendor, do you say the so-and-so rep? And how do you talk about them? Because how you talk about them is how your salespeople will see how you value them. This comes into your vision and values. So organizational vision and values, but setting your sales vision and values. And that, that certainly helps counter some of those concerns around commission and having salespeople. You should have a vision, you should have a value about solving, whatever it is. Ours is about, solving our partners' problems and helping them make recurring revenue. And then that builds up your culture, and then it helps you with your motivation. And then training and developing your team. Are they growing? Are they getting better? And that's not just on product and product training. Are you helping them with sales training? Are you doing sessions? Both either if you don't think you got the skills yourselves, do you do it with sales-friendly vendors who are more than happy to do that? Are you sending them to external sales courses to support them on that? And then again, the salesmanship, super critical. When we're training these guys out, are we talking about war rooms on how to help them? Are we having regular sales meetings when we're talking about sales problems they've had, opportunities that they need support on, and working as a team to help them on that? So one of my favorite sayings at all time is inspect what you expect. And what I mean that is, if you expect to see results from lead and lag indicators we've spoken about, you need to be looking at that. So what you want to see for your business to be successful, number one, you've got to decide what that is. Is it MRR growth? Is it re-signing current customers? Is it selling extra products into your white space? P.S. It should be selling extra products into your white space. You've all got a fantastic opportunity to do that, and we can very much help you with that. But whatever it is that you pick as your North Star that you're going to do in sales, you set your lead and lag indicators, and then you need to regularly be checking these to making sure that you're on the right path. So we're going to talk about some of the things that we would say to inspect, and there's certainly things that we're checking daily, weekly, monthly with our teams to make sure they're on the right path and we're giving them the support that they need. So what should we expect? I think, Matt, you can read these off without me putting these up, but let's talk about them. Pipeline. Absolutely. The biggest lead indicator you'll have in your business about where you're going to be in a couple of months' time from revenue is pipeline. Absolutely checked weekly at a rep level and also an organization. But all pipeline is not equal, right? You can see pipeline and the salespeople, we want to believe, right? We want to buy in. So you can put up a pipeline. You're like, oh, whoa, look at that. That's amazing. That's beautiful. I don't want to say anything else. I'm just going to be happy with that reassurance. I would argue, trust good news less than you trust bad news. Get in and check that out. As you can tell, we've been in sales for too long, Matt. So what in pipeline should we be checking? Quantity and value of deals. So how real is that pipeline? How strong is it? What's going in there? And where do we mean by that? So a rep gives you a pipeline that looks rosy. And when you go in there, it's one deal for $1 million. Okay, we might have a problem here. Or
$1 million deals for one.
We might have a fantastic opportunity here, right? And that's a good point, right? I caught myself on that. Because what does that tell us, right, Matt? So if you go in there and you've got the rep's got one deal for $1 million and they haven't spoken to you about it, what may we need to do with that?
Well, it should ring immediate alarm bells because you'd want to be across it. You want to war room it. What do we need to do to win this deal? Because if it's the top of the pipeline and it's the biggest single dollar figure, then it has the ability to change the state of play. And so then, yes, you bring all your resources together, war room it, discuss exactly who's in, who's out, who's the competitors, what's the price point we need to meet, what's our unique selling proposition, and map out exactly the strategy you're going to put in place to ensure that you have the best possible chance to win that deal.
Stop it, Matt, I'm crying. Beautiful. I get all emotional. Now, absolutely bang on, right? So how often have all of us had a rep come to us and go, oh, I lost this big deal and it was price of, I didn't think we had a feature. And you're like, why didn't you tell me? We could have got the vendor in. We could have done this. We could have done that. All these cutters. I'd argue that's a sales leadership problem because we should have seen that opportunity in our pipeline meetings, talking about it and making sure that we're giving the salespeople the support they need to win those deals. So this isn't just about, holding salespeople accountable and not trusting them and I need to see your numbers. It's a bit of that, right? Because being held accountable is how we succeed. But it's also about making sure that we give it every level of support we are to our salespeople to make them successful. Talk us through this. Matt, what is the golden rule when we talk about pipeline?
So pipeline is all about having a multiplier effect. And in general terms, we like to talk it to be at about 3 or 4 times pipeline. And what we mean by that is that most default positions have this 25% close rate. So whatever the number is that you need to achieve the goals that we've set out in your vision for the business, you need to look at, well, how is that rep getting 3 times that? So that by the time 3 or 4 times that, so by the time we've lost a few, couple got pushed out, we're still going to hit the number that we've projected.
Absolutely. And, the two most famous equations out there should be E equals MC squared, and you need 3 times pipeline because they are absolutely, it's just like gravity. It just works.
Yeah.
And so if you are a sales rep out there, and if you're one of my sales reps or one of Matt's sales reps, you've heard this before, but if you are at 3 times pipeline and it's real, then you will succeed your numbers. And it doesn't matter where, sorry, Matt.
So I was going to say, sometimes one of the arguments can say, oh, but I'm better than that, and I've been in the game a long time, and I've got a fantastic close rate, and so I don't need that much pipeline. Yep, look, I'll take that as. But if you've got 3 times pipeline and you've got a 50% close rate, man, you're buying a Ferrari. Right?
Yeah, that's exactly it. It just works, right? And that comes back to, good salespeople know this because what do they put as their number 2 thing, a number 1 thing on how they're successful? Hard work. And where does pipeline come from? It comes from hard work. It comes from being front of mind with your customers. It's about helping them in areas. It's about, sometimes, infusing and energizing them because they've got a million things on to focus on what they need to do to solve the problem that you're trying to help them with. So absolutely looking at pipeline. Not all pipelines equal, so we're going to make sure it's real, it's fresh, it's active. But if you have that 3 times pipeline, 2.5, you're getting yourself into a good area. 3 times, it's all gravy. But again, all pipeline is not equal, right? So first things we do when we start pulling apart pipeline and we sit down and look at it, we're looking at these massive deals and you go, okay, that's good. That's going to skew it out. The next thing we want to do is look at the age of the pipeline. So when you look at a good pipeline, Matt, let's talk about a good pipeline. So, and for everyone if there are people on the call phone saying, what is this guy plumber now? Why does he keep talking about pipelines? So pipeline is, very basically, as Matt said, your reps have got a clear defined number that they want to achieve, or use a sales leader have got a target for your quarter. But that number is, let's say it's 10 of 10 whatevers. You need 3 times that, so 30 in opportunities that you're currently working that you believe are closable in that time period for you to hit that 10. The maths work. So pipeline are real opportunities that you guys are working at any one time. If you've got 3 times what your target is, you will achieve your target. If you've got salespeople go out there and close it, but that's how it works. So when we talk about a good pipeline, Matt, what does it look like? What would describe just quickly, what does it look like?
Yeah, so a good pipeline has a mix of deals, a quantity of deals within an age period. And I would use that as the general in this industry. The sales cycle tends to be 6 to 12 weeks is the typical type of sales cycle. So what you'd be looking for is a pipeline that has closed dates in that 6 to 12 week period time. And what you'd be looking for, and again, back to your point, Pete, about, the one deal versus the many, ideally you want a mix of that, because in a way, I love the $1 million deal, but I'd also prefer to have 10 $100,000 deals, because if I win 6 of those, I'm a hell of a lot further along where I want to be, as opposed to just losing the $1 million deal.
You're hero or zero, aren't you, with that one?
Exactly.
Right? You're either it's caviar or bread. What are you doing this?
Exactly. So I think it's really important to just have an understanding of what your sales cycle is. As I say, typically in this industry, it's 6 to 12 weeks, and so you would want to have your pipeline refreshing on that 12-week cycle. So the idea would be you've got 3 to 4 times the amount of pipeline you need to close in that 6 to 12 week period, and then you are in happy days. The questions you start to ask is, well, if I've got a $100 opportunity that's 260 days old, you'd say, well, hang on a second, that doesn't seem right. Okay, what's happened and why is that? Versus that $1 million pipeline that might actually take longer than your typical sales cycle. They're the questions you'd ask at either extreme.
So yeah, very well explained. So it's quantity, age. So that's absolutely it, right? So if you've got all these smaller deals that are about 300 days old and have been moved 7 times, I wouldn't be super confident about that. That's going to close the next one. And then meetings per week is another one to view for about just activity, but I'd also tie that to those opportunities. So when you're looking at that pipeline, when was the last contact? So again, if we talk about what's a poor pipeline, not a lot of deals that are very old, and the last contact that the rep had with them was 6-8 weeks ago. That's not something that's conducive to see that being counted as pipeline and hitting a number.
And often that can be a case of denial. I already know that the deal's lost, but if I don't actually go and ring and ask the question, then it may still be alive.
Yeah, it's Schrodinger's cat, right? Is it dead or alive? Right now, it's both. I don't want to check. So I've done a Dr. Phil and I've done some philosophy. This has gone well. All right, and now BANT. I'm a little bit conscious of time here, guys, so we'll push on a little bit. So the other thing that we should check in any deal or any conversations we're having account managers, particularly around those larger deals, so that $1 million deal we're just talking about with Matt, is BANT. And what is BANT, you ask? BANT is the reason why we've all lost every single deal we've ever lost. So every deal that you've ever had that you thought you were going to win, but didn't happen, It didn't happen because of one of this acronym. And that's because BANT stands for budget, authority, need, and timeline. Now, I would argue with anyone for any day of the month about any deal that why you lost it was because of one of these. And what we're talking about here is the budget. So do they have the money to buy the stuff you need? Authority, are you speaking to the person who can make the decision? Need, have you convinced them that we are the right solution? And the timeline, yeah, they love all of that, but I'm not going to buy it for another 2 years. So every deal that we've ever lost in the history of selling or has been pushed out past what you've committed to in your pipeline report is because of one of these areas. The number one reason why most of us have lost deals is authority. And that's where, you know, we've taken in when the person said, oh, you know, I can make a decision, or yeah, no, give it to me and I'll tell the boss about it. And we buy into that, right? And then we get down to it and they said, oh, the boss says no, it's too dear. And so what's happened is we haven't got to the right person, so we didn't have the authority. And so that person who has the authority didn't see the need. And so we went down to a price item. So this is something that when you're sitting down with your salespeople at a one-on-one and you're doing that pipeline review, that's that next level down. So, oh, look, there's lots of deals. I know they're nice and new. And they haven't been moved 6 times on a close date. And you contacted them recently. Okay, let's go through these bigger deals and let's talk about this $1 million deal. Why is it going to close this month? Do they have the budget? Tick. Are you speaking to the right person? Absolutely. Have we conveyed the need that they have for this? Yes. Are they going to buy it and have agreed it's going to be done this quarter? Yes. Perfect. Now that pipeline is forming, and now I see a success to that lag indicator, which is the MRR. All right, pushing on. I'm going to do a little bit more around incenting salespeople. So these are just some of the tips that Matt and I believe in from when we were selling to when we're leading as well. And we're all selling there forever, but moving from directly selling to leading people. So number one, if you're a business owner, if you are a sales leader, the day you pay commission should be your favorite day of the month. Because when you do that, you've made money as an organization. The reason why I think some people don't like paying commission and feel a little bit kind of is because they probably don't have the sales processes in place that they can show themselves that they are, when I sell something, I make money on it. So using vendors that give you a very clear margin and there's not all these hidden costs. I mean, Matt, can you think of a vendor offhand that has very clear margin that delivers a product that has no hidden costs? Can you think of one?
I have come across Access 4.
That is a great example, absolutely great example. So commission, paying commission, happiest day of the month. Number two, a salesperson should walk out of a deal and know exactly how much money they made in that deal. Matt, how many places have you worked where you needed to send your commission structure over to NASA to try and work out and give it out what you're going to make for the month? And then when you finally got your number back, it was always less than you thought. So
I have worked in environments like that, but tend not to be there for particularly long. That's it, yeah. Unless I could change the outcome.
Yeah, absolutely, right? Like, you know, try not to overcomplicate your sales programs. Keep it simple. Salesperson walks out of a deal, they knew what it is. There's a reason we have an actual value for goals, right? It's because when you kick a goal, you got a value, yay team, you move on to the next one. So really important. Commission should be in line with your company growth goals. This is one I see all the time, is organizations have a growth strategy and know what they want to do, and then don't have a sales commission plan that fits that. And so when you're changing your strategy as a business, you need to review your sales plans. And I'd argue that you should be reviewing your sales commission plans every year and making sure they're aligned. And examples of that is when, you know, I talk to an organization and go, oh, we're going after new sales this year. They're absolutely focused on new sales, but the commission structure is all about retainment or things that are the opposite of that as well. So making sure that if you want to go and make money out of white space and sell new products into your customer base, which is always a great idea, costs you less money, Great vendors can help you do that. Then make sure that you're incenting your salespeople to do that. And commission doesn't always have to be financially logical. Laurie, our CFO, just kind of popped up when I said that, and he's like, what? But what I mean there is, if you want to embed a new product, if you want to get growth within an area that you want to see success, then sometimes you'll over-incent that to get salespeople into that area. And so it doesn't have to be a straight value return. It sometimes drives, or it always drives behavior. So sometimes you'll do additional incentives or bonuses to drive that behavior that you want to see push through your organization. And this ties into all of this. Commission is the carrot, management is the stick. Way too often I see organizations that their commission plan is a book like this, right? Because they're basically trying to manage people through commission, and they've had to do a counter to everything a salesperson's done. And when it wasn't a bad behavior, they put another subline, subsection 7A, into the sales commission plan, which makes it complicated and onerous and holds the organization back. Your sales commission plans should be simple, aligned to what you want to do, and then you manage the people for the bad behavior, the poor behavior, and manage the people out who don't do what you want to do. And then incenting MRR sales. So this is all around, I see a lot of organizations where they, it's very easy to incent hardware sales, right? You have a value on it, you give them some comms, away you go. MRR sales can be a little bit different, but in organizations such as ourselves, MRR is king, right? So you want people selling what you want. So first one I would recommend is know what your break even is on salespeople. Know when you're making money. When we look at SaaS businesses, here's a good example: 8 to 10 times revenue on an OTE. So on target earnings is, if you do 8 times what you're putting out as an overall package, that's what the standard is. So you want to know what it is break even, and you want to know when you're making money on a salesperson. The easiest method for MSPs, CSPs out there, 1 month. Right, so if you're doing MRR sales, give them the first month. Never do trailing comms. Give them 1 month for something that they do. And the other thing you can do around that is tie that into an installation fee. One of the simplest things I've seen around small business is the first month you charge as an installation fee. That goes to the salesperson. You then make the money on that moving forward. Now, here's one for MSPs out there. If they're under an MSA, do you need to sign them onto a term for additional products that you're selling them? Because one of the things I see is they go, I want to sign them up to a 12-month agreement, but they don't want to sign it because there's a lot of flexibility in the industry. What I'd say is if they're already under an MSA, you don't necessarily have to sign another 12-month agreement. Now, I know what you say is, okay, well, hang on, if I don't sign them a term, what happens if it cancels to the commission? And so what I'm saying here is this. You've got a customer that's been there forever. You want to sell them an additional product like an Access 4 product. But you're saying, well, I don't want to sign them up to agreement. But if I don't sign them up to an agreement, like 12 months, how do I come as a salesperson? So what I would say, and what Matt would say, is treat it like they have signed up a 12-month agreement. You've already got them on agreement. They've been dealing with you forever. They love you. You go in and sell them voice. When you put it into your PSA, ConnectWise, Autotask, what it is, put it in as a 12-month agreement. Pay the salesperson like it's a 12-month agreement. And then if they cancel within that 12 month, which they've got the ability to do because they're not in the contract, you bring out the claw. The claw is the most terrifying thing to salespeople. We hate the claw. But the claw can allow you as a business owner to sell on or to commission on potential and then pull back for bad behavior or when things don't work. And so what we're saying there is treat it like a 12-month agreement, treat them like all of them are, and then track that internally. If one of them pulls off, you've got to claw it back. The salesperson will understand. If you then see a lot of that happening, you've got a sales performance and a sales delivery issue, and then you have to manage that out. Again, if anyone wants more information on how we do that, please talk to us more and we can give you more information. And then the final thing about sales is make sure that when you're giving your salespeople good territories, you're not just looking at the current value of your big customers, but you're looking at their propensity to grow. Because it's always a balance when you're doing MRR sales. You need to keep your good customers, but you need good salespeople selling to patches that have the ability to sell. And so make sure you're not just loading up good salespeople with a account management maintaining process. I would give them lots of white space products to sell. What's a good white space product to sell into a current customer base, Matt? Can you think of any?
Again, I found that Access 4 fits really well in some of the white space scenarios.
Does very, very well in white space. I agree totally. So, guys, we've given you a ton of information, and I've ran 5 minutes over, which is absolutely, although it's about 3 minutes late, so I'm kind of on time. But we'll send these decks out to everyone. We are here now for questions, so if you've got any questions, please throw them in the Q&A, and we'll get to them. But if you think of any questions you have later, what we're going to do is do a follow-up of this. So if you don't have any questions now, send them through to Matt, myself, or Nick. We'll actually do that as a live question, and we'll record it, and we'll actually put these into the later sessions. So if you've got questions now, I'm more than happy to answer them. If you can't think of one, again, I'll give 2 of our brand new t-shirts out to anyone who sends a question in the next 48 hours. And we'll actually do a session with you where we'll record it on Teams and do that Q&A, and we'll do that answer for you. So anyone got any great questions now that gets a t-shirt? If not, we'll do some Q&A questions, send them through an email, and we'll have a chat to you on Teams and do that. We'll give a couple more minutes. I'm not seeing any questions flooding through. All right, I'll bring Nick back in as well. Oh, I think we got one in. Someone wants a t-shirt. I'm happy with that. So I've got a question here from Stuart. It says, is it better to provide answers straight away to a client or get back to them? Really good question. Really good question right now. And it's right now it's in the running for 2 very cool new t-shirts. So well done, Stuart. So look, I guess this comes down to where your knowledge level is as well, right? So there's 2 ways to answer this, because I'm a salesperson. So I'm going to give you 2 answers on this as well, right? So if you can answer that question straight away, that puts you as an expert, right? It's putting you in there as understanding your products and giving them a correct answer. So it's really good to do that. However, there is also benefits in a really good method I ask, which is one of my favorite questions, which is, if I can get that for you, is that something you're interested in, or is that going to help you with moving forward on the deal? So if I could, what if? They're 2 really, really powerful tools when you're talking to customers. Now, next time I say that to all our partners on here, you go, oh, I see what you're doing here, Peter. So I am allowing you in behind the curtain here, so help me out here. So if it's something about a deal, right? So if it's a question, Stuart, where they've asked you about a feature, about something you know that you guys do, then I would recommend you answer that straight away if you know the answer, because it shows that you know your product, you give it expertise. But if it's a question about pricing or something that you can do for them that will help them, then there's benefits in going away from that. So again, it's like, well, you know, can you do that at this price point, or can you include this in the deal? And this is where that if I could comes in really powerful. So, okay, so I don't know, it doesn't actually come with that. That is an additional service on that. But if we could provide that, if I can go and get that for you, would that enable you guys to move ahead with this? Would that solve all the problems that you have? And get them to answer that question. Because then what you do, even if you know you can actually go and get that for them, there is value in parking that, going away, making sure you can get that for them, making sure it's everything you need, and then coming back and delivering that to them. Because then what you've done is you've gone out and you've fought for them, you've got an answer. You've also trial closed them by asking them, if I can do that for you, are you willing to go ahead? And you can use that as your close. So 2 sides of that. If it's a technical question or something you know and you know the answer, show your expertise. If it's a sell, if it's something you can use a close, trial close it, go away, get it for them, and use that to close the deal. Good question. Cosmin, shout out to Cosmin out there. I just hear he might have hired a new young buck who was great. So congratulations. It might not be announced, so I'm not going to say anything there. You mentioned towards the start of bringing in young, fresh sales reps. Would you recommend bringing them in from other industries and assume transferable skills, or would you recommend someone from IT, SaaS background? Again, great question. So the question is, we're talking about hiring young, bring them in as juniors, and then bring them through your organization. So I'll keep it quiet about that one, Cosmo. So the question is, again, hire young, hire for attitude, hire for energy, train them up. The beauty of doing that, if you're taking less of a risk and you know you're bringing in someone with less experience, then that industry knowledge is less important. So if you're going to bring in someone who is a gun for hire, been in sales for industry forever, then I'd recommend you bring them in from the industry, right? Because you don't want to, you're taking a risk there on the money you're spending. You need to get them to hit the ground running. So that's more likely you want to bring in for the industry, which is then it's harder to find, there's less others. So by bringing in young and training up, industry knowledge isn't necessarily as important as it would be for a more expensive older person or more experienced person. If you can find them in sales that you've came out of channel, but have came out of a good organization that are guns, then more's the better. You're probably going to pay more for them because they've already been in the industry. They've already got under the sales commission structure and they probably know their value. So where I'd go, and I'll bring Matt in for a little bit, I would say the younger they are, the less experienced they are, the less important it is to come into from the industry. Matt?
I couldn't agree more. I've had very good success in transitioning people coming out of the hospitality industry in particular. And they automatically know how to read a room. They know who the drunk bloke is in the corner. They know who the person is that we need to be worried about. And those skills really transfer very quickly. Teaching them the industry specifics, that just sits on top, and they can learn and through shadowing and all of those things. And the other area that I had success in was migrating people that were young in the real estate industry. That was another area that, but again, most of that time had been same as me, hospitality, real estate, and it's about that cold calling, the get out, door knock, get the rejections and how they handle that rejections and that resilience that then just translates into our game so easily.
Brilliant. Two very good questions. So Stuart and Cosman, congratulations. Two hot off the press, brand new Pony t-shirts. The best we've done so far, I reckon, are going out to you guys. I'll get Nick to make sure that happens. Wear them with pride. And we'll see you at the road shows, and you'll be able to show them off before anyone else. We got no other questions, and I've held you guys up a little bit longer than I wanted to. So I just want to thank everyone for jumping on and taking time out to listen to this. I hope you saw value in it. I want to thank Matt for not only being on this with us, but also for being an exceptional sales leader. So thank you, Matt, for everything. And we'll see everyone at our roadshows. If you're not sure what the dates are for the roadshows, why not? I'll get Nick to send that through into the chat. We're in Adelaide on Tuesday, Perth next Thursday, Brisbane the following Tuesday, Sydney the Thursday after. Don't hold me to those. They're on the website. We'll send them all through. Come along, food, drink, great networking, some really exciting product releases, really exciting information about what we're going on. Love to see you guys in all the states. Thanks for coming along, guys. We'll see you guys very soon.